Hello, I'm Meredith and I love to make magic in my kitchen. I like recreating Disney-inspired recipes at home. Today I will be making Mango Mousse Cake found in the Unofficial Disney Parks Epcot Cookbook. I really wanted to do some Disney baking today, but I didn't want to have to make a trip to the grocery store, so I took a look through my Disney cookbooks and found the Mango Mousse Cake from the Japan Pavilion in Epcot. I think I have everything I need to make it, so let's see what we can make. I chose this recipe because I love mangoes and it sounded so delicious, but also because I knew I had mangoes in my fridge that were really ripe and I wanted to use them before they went bad. These mangoes smell so fresh and delicious. I think I'm going to have to substitute with a little bit of frozen mango though, because I'm not sure I have quite enough to make the puree I need. I first tried to use my mini blender to puree the mangoes, but it wasn't quite strong enough, so I switched to this stick blender. Joke's on me, I was trying to make a recipe without having to go to the grocery store, but it turns out I didn't have enough mangoes for the recipe, so now I'm running to the neighborhood grocery store to pick up a few more mangoes. Hopefully I can find some ripe ones, and then we can get back to baking. I saw a new mango variety when I was shopping at Smith's. I bought several of them to try them out and hoped they would be good. Apparently, Atalfo mangoes are somewhat difficult to find. They differ from regular mango varieties by not having a fibrous, tough consistency. This variety is creamy and buttery. These mangoes are also smaller than traditional mangoes. Between the two types of mangoes I used for this recipe, these were softer and sweeter. They were also much easier to peel, which was a huge bonus because I spent so long cutting mangoes for this recipe. This recipe calls for mango puree, which is used in all three elements of this cake: the mango sponge, mango gel, and mango mousse. The recipe says you can either buy pre-made mango puree or you can make your own. In total, you will need 3 1/4 cup mango puree. I used about 7 mangoes to get this amount of puree, but this will vary depending on the size of your mangoes. Making mango puree is really easy. Just dice up ripe mangoes and puree in a blender until smooth. You can also buy mango puree at some grocery stores. When I make this recipe again, I will definitely be buying mango puree. I spent over 30 minutes cutting and peeling mangoes to make my own puree. I should have checked the recipe before I went to the store. I needed 6 eggs. I only have 5 eggs. This is kind of turning into a cursed baking adventure. I'm prepping my ingredients for the mango sponge cake. You'll need 6 large eggs separated, so you'll want your egg whites and egg yolks in a separate bowl. Now I need another trip to the store so I can buy 1 more egg so I can finish this cake. Alright, it is a new day. I now have all of the ingredients I need to make the mango cake, so let's try making this cake one more time. When you're making a recipe, don't just assume you have all the ingredients on hand. Actually check to make sure you have enough of each ingredient before you get started. But I do have time to make the cake today, and I have all the ingredients collected now, so let's make ourselves a mango cake. I made my own self-rising flour using 3 ingredients. For every 1 cup of all-purpose flour, add 1 1/2 teaspoons baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon salt. Whisk all of these ingredients together and then you have your self-rising flour. I then pre-measured all of the other ingredients I would need to make this cake. It simplifies the process having all of your ingredients ready to go before you get started. For the mango sponge cake, you will need 1 teaspoon lime juice. All I had was key lime juice, 1/8 teaspoon cream of tartar, 6 eggs separated, 3 tablespoons vegetable oil, 1 cup self-rising flour, 1/4 cup mango puree, and 3/4 cup sugar divided. When baking, always start by preheating your oven. For this recipe, we want our oven at 325 degrees. Next, we are going to start by whipping our egg whites, cream of tartar, and 1/4 cup of sugar. You want to use the whisk attachment and whip this on high until stiff peaks form. This should take about 5 minutes and your eggs should start to get light and foamy and really expand in size. This is how we want our egg white mixture to look when we're finished. See how light and fluffy it is and how those stiff peaks really stand up when you hold the whisk out. We need to transfer this mixture into another large bowl so that we can clean our mixing bowl and use it again. Now it's time to add egg yolks to our mixing bowl. We will add half a cup of sugar, oil, mango puree, and lime juice. We will mix all of these ingredients together until well combined. Once all of these ingredients are mixed together, we will start adding in our flour a little bit at a time and mixing until just combined. I think I did this next step backwards, but you are supposed to scoop your batter into your whipped egg white mixture and gently fold to incorporate. This takes a little bit of time and patience because you don't want to mix too harshly and deflate all of the air that you whipped into your egg whites. I am speeding this up though because it is quite a long process to watch me fold this batter together. Just make sure to go slow and gently and incorporate these together. I didn't have parchment paper, so I prepped my cake tins with butter and flour. Your batter should look light and fluffy because of all of those egg whites. Pour equal amounts of batter into each of your prepared cake pans. To make the mango gel in a small bowl, combine 1 cup mango puree and 1/4 cup granulated sugar. In a separate small microwave-safe bowl, add water and sprinkle with gelatin, then allow to soak for 2 minutes. Microwave bowl on high for 15 seconds. Pour gelatin water into mango puree mixture and stir to combine. Line a round plate smaller than cake pans with parchment paper. Carefully pour gelatin mixture onto plate in even layer and place in refrigerator for 2 hours to solidify. Checking in with a cake update. So we have our mango cakes out of the oven and they are on wire cooling racks. They need to cool for the next 2 hours. I also made the mango gel and that also needs to set up for 2 hours. So that is in the fridge so it can set up and the mango cake is cooling, and next I am going to be working on the mango mousse and then we'll just have to wait 2 hours to assemble everything. To make the mango mousse, I'm starting by making whipped cream in my stand mixer. I add 1.5 cups whipping cream with 1/4 cup confectioner's sugar and I whip that on high until I get those beautiful stiff peaks. Next, I'm going to fold in 2 cups of mango puree into my whipped cream mixture. Again, you want to do this gently and just incorporate everything, but use kind of a light hand and just fold those ingredients together. Following the same steps as earlier, I made a gelatin water mixture and poured that into my whipped cream and folded them together. My cakes almost got stuck in the cake pans, but luckily I was able to get them out. In the future, I should really use the parchment paper. When I started, I thought this would be a quick, easy recipe to put together. Nothing of this recipe was too challenging. There were just a lot of elements that altogether ended up taking quite a bit of time. Plus, there was the time that all of the ingredients needed to set up in the fridge. By the time I was assembling the cake, I had been baking all afternoon and the sun was starting to set. Sorry if the lighting isn't the best in some of these videos, I was just really trying to finish this cake before it got too dark outside. I don't know if it was user error, but I let my gelatin set in the fridge for over 2 hours and it was still very sticky and didn't hold its shape as much as I expected it to. It was a little tricky getting it onto the cake and very messy. It was also a little challenging to frost this cake with the mango mousse. It was just very light and it was hard to keep it clean and it was a little bit messy to work with. I did the best that I could to frost this cake and make it look clean and professional. I don't know if I could have done anything better here, but it ended up looking pretty good. This cake was a little difficult to slice just because it was so light and delicate, and I was trying not to mess up that very light and sticky whipped cream frosting on the outer edge. So I did my best to cut some nice clean cake slices and serve them up. I ended up switching to a serrated knife, which did work a lot better for this cake. To serve this cake how you would find it at Epcot, add 3 blueberries to create a hidden Mickey on the top of your cake slice, and then add a dollop of whipped cream to the plate. Let's do a recipe review. Today I made the Mango Mousse Cake from the Unofficial Disney Parks Epcot Cookbook. This recipe was so delicious. You really got that taste of fresh mango in every bite of the cake. I think because each element of the cake incorporated mango, it really helped carry that flavor profile throughout the cake. And it was so delicious. This cake really tastes like summer. It is light and refreshing. It's not overly sweet, and all of the elements work really well together. A few slight downsides to this recipe: it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. There's just a lot of moving parts and different ingredients to assemble. None of it's really complicated, it just ends up taking a little bit of time. I don't really mind complex recipes, but it's just good to know so that you can plan in advance if you wanted to make this for a certain event. I also found the gelatin a little bit difficult to work with. It was probably the most frustrating part of this recipe to me. The gelatin didn't seem to add any extra stability or structure to the cake, so the cake was just really delicate, a little bit hard to assemble and hard to slice. From the image in the cookbook, I expected the mango gel to set up a little bit more and to make a cleaner, more stable cake instead of being a little bit runny. Despite the small difficulties that I had assembling this cake, I would 100% make this recipe again because it was so yummy. Even if it didn't look perfect, it tasted perfect.
I'm just a perfectionist and I really wanted to recreate the cake the exact way that it looked in the cookbook, and I'm always looking for ways to improve my baking in the future. So my notes for making this cake again in the future would be to buy mango puree because it will save you so much time. I would also break this cake up into 2 days just because it does take a long time, and maybe breaking it up into 2 days would allow the mango gel to set up a little bit more. So I would make the gel and the mousse the day before, and then I would bake the cake and assemble it the next day. This would also just spread out the workload and make it a little bit less stressful if you were trying to get this done in time for an event. Overall, I am pretty happy with how this cake looks, and I'm extremely happy with how this cake tastes. If you love mangoes, you are going to love this cake, and I recommend you give this recipe a try. I hope you will subscribe to my channel. I love making magic in my kitchen and doing fun DIYs and themed parties. So if any of those things sound like fun to you, please subscribe and follow along on my creative adventures.